Welcome to Upleveling, the podcast dedicated to building better leaders, smarter systems, and bigger results. Do you know someone who, no matter what they do or what they're involved with, they are super successful? And it seems like no matter what they do, they can turn anything into gold and just blow other people out of the water. What I want you to realize today is there's probably nothing special about that person. We're all a little special and have our own things. But what very successful people are is intentional. So today we're going to talk about intention. And by definition, intention is a conscious aim. It means doing things on purpose. Intention is setting a goal and then doing the actions to reach the goal. So it's really about clarity and knowing what you want. That phrase makes me always think of the Notebook where Noah's just like, "What do you want?" And I think that applies in business so much. And it's just about getting very clear on what you want and then going after it. So a couple months back, I was asked to talk about intention at a local service group, Altrusa, which I'm a part of. And I thought that it would be really important to bring that here to the podcast as well. Because if you have big goals, whether that's in business or life or, relationships, money, no matter what it is, it's really just about being intentional if you want to achieve those things. So today I'm going to walk you through how to be more intentional in your life and some of the things that I do and put into place. So let's start with yearly intention. I want you to remember this doesn't need to be like a calendar year. This is not something that you need to wait until January 1st to roll around. My birthday actually was a week ago, and this is something I always do on my birthday is to sit down and reflect on the past year and then set intentions for the next year. So I want you to do this now instead of putting this off. What I do is I write down 5 business goals, 5 personal goals, where I want to go on vacation, and what home projects I want to complete. So those of you that know me personally know that I love interior design and I always have something going on. And the reason I'm able to get these projects done is because I'm intentional. And that just means that you're putting goals on paper. The reason that you want to write them down is because then they become real and reviewable. This should be something that you're reflecting on often. And it's also important for visualization and really just imagining that you've already reached those goals. Now, I know that seems a little woo-woo, but hear me out. So I'm going to take you through an exercise. Let's say that I want you to think about donuts. Now, in your brain or in your mind, did you picture your favorite donut or did you picture your favorite donut spot? If you're local, did you picture the Ed and Barb's building? Like what happened in your mind when I said the word donuts? Well, one thing that did not happen is you did not think about the word donut. You did not see the letters DONUT. And the reason is your brain does not think in words, it thinks in pictures. That's why if you're going to make a vision map, you don't want to use a lot of words, you want to use a lot of pictures. And that's because that's what your brain recognizes. And if you are imagining these goals and you're imagining what it would be like if you've already achieved them, then your brain starts to realize that it's possible and it starts to help you achieve these goals. So I want you to really think about how you can use that visualization in your life and in being more intentional. And now I am no expert on this at all, but I just know that it works really well for me. And so I'd encourage you to kind of research that and look into the power of visualization. And while we're doing that, and I've said make sure you're writing these down, it's important to revisit them constantly. This isn't something that you look at every 6 months because if it's not top of mind, it's not going to happen. So that is basically our yearly intention. Now let's get very tactical. So I'm going to tell you about my daily intention and some of the things that I do. And again, I'm sharing these because they work. They have helped me set and reach goals over and over and over. So on a daily routine, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. and I'm working out. And the reason is it sets the tone for my day. A lot of times I tell myself, like, I want that workout to be the hardest part of my day. Now, it rarely is, but that is the goal. The reason you want to do this is think of a power plant. I know I've mentioned this before, but a power plant doesn't have energy, it creates it. And your body is the same way. You can't just have a ton of energy, or maybe some of you do and you're super lucky. But the rest of us, we have to create that energy. And if I'm working out and I'm moving my body, I am creating more energy for me to be successful and intentional through the rest of my day. So that is super important that I do that. I also have 4 daily non-negotiables. And so the first one is working out, which I mentioned. I reread my goals. So those yearly goals that I mentioned and the yearly intentions, I'm rereading them. The reason is I want them to be top of mind every single day. And now there's definitely days where I can't do anything to get me closer to that goal, but it is going to be top of mind. And it is going to be something that I'm thinking about constantly, because if you're thinking about it, then you're going to do something about it. But in that day, I'm also reading 10 pages of a book. And the reason that that's important is, I'm sure you have been in a situation where you're like, I wish I could read more. I wish I could, I don't understand how people get through so many books and these types of things. And the reason I'm able to get through a book is because I'm intentional about it. I don't sit down and say, I'm going to read half this book. No, I read 10 pages a day, which is very doable. And then the 4th non-negotiable is I visualize the day. Again, little woo-woo, but hear me out. I visualize my meetings that I have for the day and really how I want to show up and who I want to be. And this is super important because this comes back to energy. I know that as a CEO and I'm leading a team and I'm leading clients, that my days can be very hectic. My schedule is very structured and there's a lot going on. And so what I want to do each morning is I visualize how I want to show up to that meeting, meaning who do I need to be in this meeting? Do I need to be the CEO that is just on point and talking about the mission and talking about the vision? Or do I need to be the client manager and I have a client who might be going through something really rough? Maybe they're going through rough financial times. Who do I need to show up to support that client? I'm visualizing those meetings every single morning so that, again, my brain knows what to expect throughout my day and it doesn't throw me off as much. And part of this also is in these meetings, like I'm visualizing the energy I need to bring and the energy shifts I need to have. If I'm having a really tough conversation with an employee, I'm going to visualize how I want to deliver the message. I'm going to visualize how I want them to respond to me. Now, I know I don't have control over how they respond, but if I can go ahead and play out how I want that meeting to go, chances are it's going to go the way I want. And it really just helps me pour into others because I am meeting with people with intention. I'm not walking into things blind, which is respectful of other people and their time. So again, those are my daily non-negotiables. Now, let's talk a little bit about intention in business. This is super important to me. And my wish for you guys is that you think about this and really pinpoint how you can do this in your business. But I'm very intentional about the clients we work with. They have a certain, let's say, a certain revenue range. That's the most basic. They're providing a certain service. They like high quality. We have a list of ideal clients And I'm intentional about that. And I do not tolerate bad clients. Now, a bad client to me might be something different for you, but there's certain things that we will not tolerate. And that just comes down to being intentional. It's not about getting all the money in the door that I can. It's about working with the right people. And I'm also, on that note, very intentional about hiring. We have a very clear hiring process that I think works really well for us. And in that process, we're intentional about who we're looking for. And I don't mean like their skills. I'm talking about like their character. I'm visualizing the right person, meaning what beliefs do they have? Are they going to fit with our core values? Do they want to grow? Do they want to stay the same? Are they wanting to serve clients? Do they care about clients, or do they just care about clocking in and getting paid? There's nothing wrong with that. But for us at Align CPA, we're looking for people who care about our clients and want them to win. That's one of our core values. Our success comes in your success. And we believe that through our clients. I believe that through my employees, that I will be more successful if my employees are more successful. So the intention is, how do I help them become more successful? I give them resources. I give them training. I give them opportunities for growth. And all of that is because we're intentional about who we bring on to the firm. And that is really just also an intention in business, is having those long-term targets. I mentioned earlier about the 5 business goals. That's just for the year. Now we have 3, 5, and 10-year goals as well. And having those long-term targets, breaking those down into weekly actions. I know where I want to be in 10 years. In fact, my whole team knows where I want to be in 10 years because we have a vision map that says, hey, in 1 year, we want to be here. In 3 years, we want to be here. And in 5 years, we want to be here. It is very clear. And then those things are broken down into weekly actions of how do we get to that spot. We hit our goals because we're intentional. We intentionally track them and the progress towards them. And that also comes into play with, if I know where we want to be in 3 years, I need to be making decisions today that are going to get me there. This is probably the hardest part in business. What do we say no to? And we can only know what we should say no to if we know where we want to go. So again, at Aligned, our focus is on helping small business clients get clarity and confidence in their numbers. And so that is exactly why we do monthly bookkeeping. We can only give you that clarity and confidence if we know the numbers are right. And so I don't want to bring on clients that don't need monthly bookkeeping. That is just part of that intention of who we work with and what we do and how we're going to reach those 3 and 10-year goals. Another area that I've been very intentional with is the Rook. So if you don't know what the Rook is, at our office at Align CPA, we had a detached building that probably once upon a time was like a carport or storage. It was pretty gross. It's about 800 square foot. And what was happening is we were growing so much at the firm, and our conference room would be booked. So my thought was, let's build out this detached building into a conference space. But is there a way that we could do that to help our community or to help our clients? So I decided that we're going to make this a shared conference space and rent it out. I mean, my goal is to hopefully recoup the money, and it pays for itself. I mean, that's what we want in business. But let me tell you about where that name came from at the Rook. I didn't know this beforehand, but if you're a chess player, you already know this. The Rook is a chess piece, and it protects the king and queen. And that is exactly how I see Align CPA. Our job is to protect the business owner. Now, how do we do that? We do that, again, by giving them clarity and confidence in their numbers so they can make the best decisions. And that's what we're doing for our clients. And so that's where the name The Rook came from. And it's really just a space about strategic growth, not only for us, but for others. This is a space that I wanted people to be able to use and use it by getting out of their office or getting out of their space to come here so they could think differently and think bigger. We've got a big whiteboard that you can use and just like throw everything on there and plan out your year, plan out those 3 and 10 year goals so that you can then be intentional. It's really hard to do that in your own space because the phone's ringing or someone's walking in. And so we built this space to help people do that. And that's where the name The Rook came from. If you're local and you have no idea what I'm talking about, feel free to stop by the office one day and we'll be happy to give you a tour of it. It also has, sitting in it right now, because it has all of our podcast equipment, which we also rent out to others who want to launch their own podcast. So I've given you lots of tips today on how I'm intentional in my entire life, actually. And so I hope that that's inspired you to do the same. And I want you to just realize that success is built from intention and action. So we have to set the goal and take the action. But I want you to, above all else, realize that none of this happens by accident. It is all designed. And you can have the same exact thing in your business if you decide what you want and you go after it. That's really the question. What do you want? Get very clear on that and then become very intentional. And I have no doubt that you will reach everything that you want to and live the life that you want. That is my goal for you. That is my want for you. So I'd love to hear how maybe you're already intentional in your life and in your business, or I'd love to hear like what you are going to do different to get yourself to the next level. Thanks for tuning in to Upleveling. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more entrepreneurs like you discover the show. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on social media or visit aligncpa.com for resources and updates. Until next time, keep leading, optimizing, and upleveling.